Home Loan Calculator. Calculate a borrowing amount using an applicant's information. In this tutorial, we are building a home loan borrowing calculator, an application that gets information about the applicant's personal details, earnings, and expenses as the input and as the output. It shows how much they can borrow. It will also check whether the applicant is an existing customer of the bank by reading the database. The input of the application will be personal details, earnings, and expenses of the applicant. The application will process this information and calculate 3 scores. Then it will output the amount the applicant can borrow based off those scores. First, outside of FlexRule Designer, create the MS SQL database using the script in the Completed Home Loan Calculator project folder, located in the database script folder and called customer.sql. This will create the database customer and table customer details. Let's build the project. You can start the project by creating a fact concept document to model data. In this fact concept, we will map 3 objects, and the members of these objects can be added by right-clicking on each object and selecting Edit Members. Connect 2 options to the Personal Details fact concept. These will allow the user to select Single or Joint for the application type, and Home to Live in or Residential Investment for the property type. So, in the concept.xml file, we create 3 facts for each object: personal details, earnings, and expenses. This concept file will be used across the project. For the email attribute, we want to make sure only valid emails are entered. So for this, we'll add a constant to the email variable's validation rules, where the string has to match a regular expression that can be found on the project page. Let's create the main flow of the project, a generic flow called main.xml. This will connect all the documents in the project, so we'll also define the input variables here. Add start, end, and terminate nodes. From the Project Explorer window, drag and drop the previously created fact concept, concept.xml, into the flow, and connect it to the nodes. Click on the fact concept and in the Properties window under Action and Validator, enter the variable isValid into copyValue2, and edit facts check to add a fact called personal details and assign its value as personal details. Click on the transition that goes to the end node and change its condition to isValid, 2 equal signs, and true. And since we'll be moving things around a lot in the flow, it's good to double check that this condition remains set after you make changes to the flow. Click on Properties and under the Properties window, Variable Definition, add the in variable personal details. This is where we connect the created fact concept file as an input. Also, add a local variable named isValid to store the result of the validation. And you can also label the fact concept as Validate Customer Account. Let's test the isValid validation. Now, from main.xml, click Validate Files. And if there are no errors, click on Debug with JSON Composer. You'll be asked to enter input data. Once you do that, click OK, and you can just click on Stop Debugging or go step by step in the Parameters window, and you'll see the isValid result. Now we can read the database. Drag and drop a database node and we can label it Customer Database. Connect it between the fact concept and the end node, and be sure to always assign the transition from the fact concept with a condition of isValid, == true. Create a local variable isACustomer. To find the database, click on the database node and go to Properties. Select Connection String and enter in a string to find your database, formatted like this for a trusted connection, and like this when a username and password is required. Next, we'll want to query the connected database. Select Queries and add a command. We'll use this query to see if a customer's account number matches their email address in the database. The command type will be execute scalar, and this will have two parameters, one for the account number and one for the email. And under result, we need to copy the value to the variable, is a customer. Now save, validate the rules, and let's debug by clicking on Debug with JSON Composer. Test an account number and email that exists in the database. Click OK, and to test this, you can just press the Stop Debugging icon right away. And under the Parameters window, you'll see the number 1, which is the equivalent to true, and that's set to is a customer. Now let's create a logic document to assign scores to an applicant. We'll create a decision table called personaldetails.xml, which will be used to assign a score based on personal information. First, we'll add an in-out variable called personal details for the personal details fact we created in the concept file. Then add a local variable which will be an integer with a string value of 0 called personal details score. That will hold the value of the customer score. Build the decision table by adding 5 condition columns: application type, number of dependents, property type, credit score, and is a customer already. Add one action column, personal details score, to add values to the personal details score variable. So if the applicant is single, add 20. Has one dependent, add 30. Buys the property to live in, add 20. Has a 100 credit score, add 0. If they're an existing customer, add 10. So this person's score would be 80, and that would be used to calculate the amount the applicant can borrow. Now drag and drop that decision table into the main flow. Connect it between the customer database and the end node. Then validate the files. Click Debug with JSON Composer, enter in customer data, and click OK. Click on Next Step to go step by step. And you can click No when it asks to open the child model, except when it asks this for personaldetails.xml. For that, click Yes, and then you can see the matching rules in the decision table in green. And once the execution completes, you can see the personal details score in the parameters window. Create a natural language logic file. Next, we'll create a natural language document called earnings.xml, which will be used to assign a score based on the applicant's earnings. Add another local variable, earnings, to connect the concept file. Its assembly is concept.xml and type is earnings. Add a local variable, earnings score. This is where we'll assign the score in this natural language document. It should be an integer with the initial value of 0. Add the code for the earnings file, and that can be found on the Home Loan Calculator project page under Natural Language Code. And add earnings to the main flow between personal details and the end node. And in main.xml, also add earnings as an in variable to connect the concept file. Its assembly is concept.xml and type is earnings. Now we'll create another decision table called expenses.xml. This is like the personal details.xml decision table, and it's going to assign a score based off the customer's expenses. Add a local variable, expenses score. This is where we assign the score to this decision table. So again, it should be an integer, and the initial value should be 0. Build the decision table by adding 5 condition columns: living expenses, current home loan repayments, other loan repayments, other commitments, and total credit card limits. Add one action column, expenses score. So in this table there are 25 rows, which means 25 rules. We add a score for each rule, and at the end, the applicant will be given a score according to the expenses he or she inputs. The score will be used to calculate the amount the applicant can borrow. Drag and drop expenses into the main flow, and place it between earnings and the end node. Add a new variable with the direction set to in, named expenses and concept.xml for the assembly, with the type set to expenses. Validate the files, and click on the Debug with JSON Composer icon to test generating the 3 scores. Here you can see the 3 scores for this applicant in the parameters window. So now that we can determine the 3 scores of the applicant, from that we want to calculate the amount that can be borrowed. This will be the main decision we make. Therefore, we are going to build the decision hierarchy using a decision requirement diagram, or DRD. To do this, we'll move these decisions from the flow to the DRD. Create a folder named Risk Score Calculation and move those logic files to that folder. To do this, just delete them from the main flow, and in the Project Explorer window, drag and drop them into that folder. Now create a DRD document, calculateborrowingamount.xml. Add the decimal local variable, total income, and add the decimal local variable, amount. Drag and drop the logic files, personal details, earnings, and expenses. Drag and drop a decision element and name it Calculate Risk Score. This will be the main decision that we want to make using the logic files. Create another decision called Calculate Total Income that will tally up the income in its expression. And add the final decision, Calculate Borrowing Amount. This will use a formula to calculate the amount an applicant can borrow, and this can also be found on the project page. Now we've completed creating the decision hierarchy to calculate the borrowing amount. Return to the main flow and add another variable, a string called Final Message, with its direction set to out. Drag and drop the DRD, calculateborrowingamount.xml, into the main flow, between the database and the end node. Now drag and drop the activity and give it the label, Display the Amount. Give it this expression to format the final message. Soon we'll run the project, but first let's go over how to create a logic run template, which can save you a lot of time when debugging because you can save the input values you want to test, so you don't have to keep re-entering them. Using logic run templates. The logic run template icon is here and is used to choose from created logic run templates. To create a logic run template, first open the document that you want to create the input template for. So we'll open the main flow. Then click on Debug with JSON Composer. Input values into the template. Click on Save as Run Template. Then enter the title and description and click OK. Let's call it Joint Account 1. For the description, we'll say Joint Account Holder for a home to live in, and you should get a Save Successfully message. Click OK on the JSON Composer window if you want to start debugging right after that, or you can click Cancel. Now if you click on Logic Run Template, you will see all the templates you created for the document. and these templates are specific to the document you created them on. When the Logic Run Template screen appears, you can choose any of the available listed scenarios based on the title or other information that is shown in the list. Then you can use the screen's toolbar to either debug or run a particular scenario. Use the Debug option to debug the open project. Use the Run option to run the open project. You can filter all run templates which are related to the current document. Use the Delete option to delete a created run template. You can also edit a created run template. Let's run the project. Make sure you're in main.xml, and let's use the Logic Run template we just created. So, click on the Logic Run template icon and press Run in the template window. And here in the parameters window, you can see the final message, which tells us what the applicant can borrow. Want to get started? Check out our resource hub for more information.